for joining us. Thank you to all my fellow trustees here for coming in on such a pretty day and whatnot. And we have very few of them left, I mean, considering it's fall, almost fall. I have something I want to read in regards to our guidance for visitors. The Mental Health and Recovery Services Board of Lucas County strives to ensure a welcoming and safe environment for all visitors attending a board, committee, or subcommittee meeting. Accordingly, reasonable accommodations will be made for visitors with special needs when provided 24 hours prior notice. Additionally, each meeting will offer an open session to solicit comments from visitors. Visitors wishing to speak during an open session are required to identify themselves, the group, or the agency they represent, if any, and the comment topics. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. New issue brought up by a visitor may not be considered by the board, committee, or subcommittee. At the discretion of the Mhrsb or committee chairs, issues brought up by visitors may be forwarded to the executive director for follow-up. Subcommittee chairs may deliver information to their convening committees for consideration. Finally, the chair reserves the right to recognize visitors during other parts of the board, committee, or subcommittee proceedings if they believe the visitors' comments would be pertinent to the motion or business being considered. All additional conversations by visitors during meeting proceedings are discouraged. Visitors that disrupt the board, committee, or subcommittee meetings may be asked to leave.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, now we're time to roll call. We got that out of the way, right?
Ms. Friedman,
I am here.
Mr. Arnold,
Present.
Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell,
Here.
Mr. Brown, Ms. Carter, Mr. Janai,
Here.
Reverend Gordon,
Here.
Ms. Harding,
Here.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Here.
Mr. Knowles, Mr. O'Connor,
Here. He's here.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Here.
Dr. Russell,
Here.
Mr. Stengel,
Here.
Major White.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Susan. Next, we'd like to recognize our visitors, and we will start with you, Richard.
Richard Arnold.
Faith Kelleher, board staff.
Michael Carter, board staff.
Steve Spinell, board staff.
Paul Lewis, Recovery Council, and St. Paul Community Center Board of Trustees.
Teresa Bear, I work at the ZEP, the VOA, and St. Paul's.
Okay.
Debbie Riley Jackson with Fair Housing and the Thomas Warren Center.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, are there any items that need to be removed off the consent agenda?
Need to call them off separately.
Okay, meeting note minutes, planning and oversight committee report, fiscal year OMAS indigenous placement allocation.
Close.
I know, I messed that up, right? Well, I always blame it on English isn't my first language.
No one would ever know.
Fiscal year 23 OMAS multi-system adopt allocation. Fiscal year new concept POS increase. Health officer designation. Executive and nominated committee report. Table of organization and salary range revision. Increase in fiscal year administrative budget. And that's it. All right. Well, great. Roll call, right?
Call the vote.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Ms. Banks, Ms. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Brown, Mr. Janai,
Yes?
Reverend Gordon,
Yes.
Ms. Harding,
Yes.
Ms. Mendoza-Locke,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dr. Russell,
Yes.
Mr. Stengel.
Yes.
Great, thank you again, Susan. And it's off to you, Scott.
Wow, this could be the quickest meeting we've had in a long time. I think it's appropriate to just remind everybody that everything that we just voted on had been vetted through our committee structures. Nothing usually makes it onto this agenda for the board meeting unless it has been through a committee. So please do not think the lack of discussion regarding these items today have not been properly vetted through the appropriate committees. I will proceed with my director's report, and I just have a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, so there's no rhyme or reason to the presentation today. First and foremost, I've been reminded by my staff that we need to update board member pictures on our website. So there are several new members that we do not have pictures for. And we would like to take those pictures on Faith or Michael, September 6th, which is our next planning and oversight committee meeting. So those of you, we will contact you individually, or if you would like to have a new picture.
That's what I was gonna ask. I'm like, I need an update.
Yeah, you want to update, new do, or, you know, you didn't like the first picture.
I think I have a lot more gray.
Come on down. We'll take pictures. So appreciate that. You remember those days where you'd have your school picture? It's the same thing. Make sure your hairs are, and make sure some of us make sure.
Powder our nose.
Okay. First of all, thank you for approving the organizational chart and the raises that will go into effect August 29th. I want to talk a little bit about implementation. As you are aware, we've just voted on 4.5 new positions. We had 4 vacant positions. We made an offer to the manager of crisis and treatment services. Late last week, it's been accepted and we're in the middle of processing. If all things go well, which we believe it will, that person will start on September 12th, just as a reminder.
God.
Using the new salary schedule, we were able to recruit a very qualified candidate for a position that has been vacant since last October.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's working. Also want to recognize, Robert's probably watching, Robert Kasperzak. You know him as our manager of training and development, but as of August 29th, or actually when we fill his position, you will know him as our manager of community engagement. He has applied for and has been given that transfer to that position. Very qualified candidate. Robert has a lot of experience and a lot of connections in the community, and also helped us pass, for those of you who are around, our first levy campaign in 2012 when we got new money. So thinking about 2024, when we are back on the ballot in some capacity, his wealth of experience will be very beneficial to that position. We have done a round of internal selection to fill his position, and we are looking at an outside candidate for that position so that we can move rather rapidly. We hope to make a offer sometime by the end of this week and then start the engagement process for the background checks and all that stuff. The remainder of the program, or the remainder of this staff, will be filled according to the schedule that Jenny put together in the administrative budget. So our plan is to have all positions in place as of January 1. That might be a bit challenging, considering, come November-ish, December-ish, it gets a little hard to recruit staff because nobody wants to leave during the holidays kind of thing. But nonetheless, we are going to proceed. We're going to work on the positions that we can, that we have the highest priority for first, and then work our way down. And of course, they're in multiple departments, so we'll be able to kind of, do multiple efforts as opposed to just wait for one and then fill, then wait for one, and that kind of thing. So you're going to see quite a few job postings going out in the next several months. You're also going to see 2 requests for proposals that will be released by the end of the day, or by the end of this week. I believe we've already released one of them, and that is our request for proposals for the strategic planning consultant. That will be out today. It'll be posted in the papers that we advertise in, mainly the Journal, Prensa, and the Truth. We'll post it on our website. We'll send it to the MBE list off the state's website. We'll send it to anyone who has shown any interest. We'll send it to you all if you want. And we will send it to anyone who has completed a strategic plan for us in the past. Our goal is to get as many applications as possible. We'll vet those applications. There might be a few of you that we ask to sit on the strategic planning scoring committee, because we always like to engage a board member or two in our RFP application process. The second RFP that we're releasing, request for proposal, is for architectural and engineering for what we are now calling Danny's Place. Danny's Place is what you were formerly calling the Adult Psychiatric Rehabilitation Facility. Through our agreement in fundraising with NAMI Ohio, we provided them access to the naming rights of the facility. They have subsequently worked with a family who has been impacted by a completed suicide to help us, and because of that, started their own foundation called 33 Forever Foundation in the name of their daughter Danny. And they will be the main fundraiser for, they will help us do the fundraising, but I also again want to rely on some of you with some extensive fundraising experience to help bolster that. NAMI Ohio is taking the lead in the private fundraising campaign, but of course we'll be expected to participate, and I'll be leaning on a few of you to help us get access to donor lists and attendance and probably location, and to keep the process running. We are currently working out the details of the lease for the proposed site. I'm not going to, the proposed site has not changed, but I don't want to speak in a public meeting on the actual location until we get the site secured. But it hasn't changed. And I think I've actually said it in a public meeting more than once, but now I'm being a little more sensitive to Ohio, to what we want to just make sure we don't screw things up when we're this close, I guess. We are working on the state app, or the federal application for Mhrsb Captors $2 million. That is in the works now, and there's a lot to that. We are also going to begin some environmental activity at the site that does not require a RFP because of the costs, just to kind of rule it in or rule it out quickly. And we are putting in our request, or we've requested additional funding from Ohio Moss for the build. And since we hired the owner's rep, Hplex, they are keeping us moving. They are doing what we're paying them to do, and it's very exciting to see that the progress that we're making in the facility is moving forward. Every day that we hold without a shovel in the ground is very likely a day the construction costs go up. We're estimating somewhere between 7 to 9 mil. We thought maybe early on we could get it for 5. That was very, very naive. We do not have we do not have a build-out cost yet in general. That's one of the next things that will come, but we need some architectural and engineering to help us with that. And then also one of the first things that they're going to do is they're going to do a general mock-up of what the facility could look like so that we can have that available for any of our fundraising campaigns that we want to do. So very exciting times around in relation to that. And of course, we will get you more information on Danny's story as we move forward, because that's pivotal to our fundraising campaign.
Scott, Mr. O'Connor and I are interested, how does Danny spell his name?
D-A-N-I.
Oh, I spelled it really wrong. Along the lines of the facility and things, do you think that there might be an opportunity to engage maybe like with the Arts Commission or somewhere where we can get local artists involved?
I would love that idea, and our plan is to actually bring representatives of the board that could be on the fundraising and kind of just like the committee with the fundraising, it's Jeff and Donna Heck is the family. Her name is Danny Heck. It's Jeff and Donna Heck. With the Hecks and their foundation 33 Forever and NAMI Ohio to be the core of the fundraising, and then I think along with that discussion, all of that stuff can come into play.
Yeah, because I just think it would be really great, you know, even getting like the Ability Center maybe
Yeah.
involved and stuff. Just you know, make it more, get the community ownership behind it. It'll
Yeah.
it'll make the fundraising go much smoother as well.
So all of that is up for discussion.
Good. Good.
You know, we have the owner's rep. They are extremely capable people, excellent choice, and you know, we believe that we can make this happen.
Exciting.
So, a couple other things going on. We held last week our summer crisis intervention team training took place August 8th through the 12th. There were 21 individuals who successfully completed the training, including police officers, parole officers, corrections officers, school resource officers. They were from the Sheriff's Office, Oregon PD, Toledo Municipal Court, Toledo Police Department, Toledo Public Schools, and the University of Toledo Police Department. There were so that you guys know this is a 5-day event, right? 40-hour training. We bring in area professionals to actually facilitate the discussions on a daily basis. And there's 3 days of didactic, then there's a day and a half of site visits, and then a half a day of role play. We had there were 17 sessions, 22 local subject matter experts participated in this event. The sites that we visited this time were the ZEPS Crisis Center, Lott Industries, Northwest Ohio Psychiatric Hospital, and the Werner Center. It was exciting because Toledo Police participated this time, and the first time in I think 18 months, thereabout. And so that was a good sign that we're able to re-engage them. And while I do know that their staffing levels are still very, very low, it was nice that they doubled down and recommitted to participating in the program. Also, just kind of as an extra note, on August 18th, the first CIT youth training will be held at Toledo Public Schools We will have 50 campus protection officers participating in that inaugural program. They're assigned to elementary schools throughout the city. The national curriculum will be presented by certified professionals, and it will be held at Wade High School. So that's kind of exciting. It's our first ever youth CIT training. And to engage Toledo Public Schools at that level is very exciting. So you might have a little bit more information as to why school might have been delayed a day or two. As we engage with TPS to provide those trainings. And hopefully this is one of many to come, but that's very exciting for us. We also have the Recovery is Beautiful Festival. That's our, I don't know, our signature event for the summer, being scheduled for the location. Do we have a location yet? The Warner Center, and it's on September 10th. It's on a Saturday.
Awesome.
It will be hopefully outside, and it'll be a beautiful day. It usually is. But there are all kinds of activities, food. I think we're talking about a DJ or a band or whatever at this point. But it's a very exciting, recovery-oriented event, open to the public. You all are welcome to attend, and it's just a great time.
Yeah, it is.
I think that's all I have. I'll look at some of my staff. Is there anything else I need to say, Michael? All right. Steve, anything?
No.
All right, Amy had to leave, so Jenny.
No.
Now, it's a very busy time for our fiscal. All of our reports are due, and Ohio Moss information is due up by the end of this week for any of the carryover, and so the new help that is in the reorganizational plan is desperately needed. So thank you once again. That's it.
I have a, Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
The training that's being conducted for TPS, how did that come to pass? Did they approach us? Did we approach them?
Yeah, I was curious
How
about
did
that.
that?
I don't honestly know that, but I will get back to you on that. You know,
I'm just curious.
we continue to have conversations with TPS on an ongoing basis. You know, the school resource officers have always been participating in our CIT, and but I'm not sure how that actually kicked off. So.
Is there opportunity to duplicate that with other school systems?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it will likely be very valuable to other school systems.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as
Yeah.
well, that it would be neat to see throughout Lucas County, the different school systems receive this training.
Mhm.
That would be fantastic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just happy that we're going to finally be able to get a strategic planning process again in person.
Can we applaud that?
Especially for the newer board members who've not gone through that process. I have found that to be incredibly beneficial to the role that we play, and bringing this group together to roll up our sleeves and really talk through these issues has been very, very helpful. So I'm, not that we didn't do the best we could in COVID by trying to come up with an interim plan or other things, but it's going to be nice for us to be able to get together in person again.
Yeah. And we are expediting the process. The plan is to have an approved plan to you in time for it to be used for our fiscal year '24 funding process. So from release date to having a completed plan in front of the board and approved in that period of time is fairly expedited.
You're talking about April to May.
Well, we'll have it to you essentially in February, January. We want to have it in January, so because remember you have to put 120-day notices out in February. So, and then we start first kind of conversations about administrative budget and all that at that time too. And so it seems appropriate that if we can do it, that we get it done in time to impact our fiscal '24.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting, just to kind of echo what Jim spoke to about, looking forward to doing it in person. It's a incredible way of learning the organization from the ground all the way up. And really then going, well, what role does my vision play in the overall vision? Each of us have our own reasons why we sit in these chairs. And so it's the most incredible opportunity, so I encourage everyone to participate as much as your schedule will allow.
And if you notice, we often slip into the write-ups of the packets, how our recommendations are being connected back to the strategic plan or the equity and action plan, so that you can see the linear connection that we're working and making progress on your priorities.
Do we, and maybe we do this and I just don't recall it in the material, do we, during the course of the year, highlight how we are advancing the ball on the strategic plan in some visual way?
We have in the past, we haven't done it recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that is a request, we can certainly make that happen. And it would be appropriate that we do it in preparation for a new plan, because they're gonna wanna know where we left off.
Yeah, and with the pandemic and things, that was a little tougher
Right.
to do, because the current strategic plan, it really is addressing those, the immediate issues
Yeah,
that we were seeing.
Let me go back and see when we did it, because I wanna say we've done it within the, year. But I might be off by a couple of months, so let me check that out, and then let me get a strategy for how we might. Steve?
Just from a strategic planning perspective, you've heard some of it, the infrastructure transformation project, references two of the 4 pillars from the interim strategic plan from May of 2020 that was an 18-month document. And of the 4 pillars, it addresses systems and it addresses pandemic reaction, how we respond to a pandemic. And we've talked about that, so you've heard about the interim strategic plan, which was an 18-month period of time, kind of a stopgap, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're going back to is the full-blown, full process of engaging that, and everything that should be done, following like strategic planning doctrine, is it informs every decision. It is the very top. Everything, if it does not relate to what the strategic plan puts out, then it really shouldn't be implemented. Even emergency actions, short-term, still need to tie to that. And it is the guiding document for every decision that should be made in any organization.
So that's where we're proceeding.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
will be joining the board.
Yeah.
So we will commit to having that document and presentation prior to you walking into the room for the actual strategic planning process. How's that?
Yeah.
I do want to mention one other thing too, but unrelated to strategic planning.
Oh, well, before you go, I have
Yes, ma'am.
one more question. As I recall, I think it was a strategic plan that we used to do focus groups first
That
and
is-
then come together as a board. Are we
That is
still
part of
doing
the
that?
RFP.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Good question.
I would have been remiss if I would not have mentioned that tomorrow and Thursday, today's Tuesday, right? Or Wednesday and Thursday, we have our Ohio Association of County Behavioral Health Authorities coming in for our on-site audit of our Culture of Quality certification. So if you remember all of those policies that you reviewed over the course of the winter / spring, those have been packaged and evidence has been gathered and connected to those policies and connected to the standards for the Culture of Quality certification process. There'll be 3 folks in from, I think there's 2 board staff members from a board that is a Culture of Quality certified board who also serves as peer auditors, and then a staff member from our state association will be on site here. Both Wednesday and Thursday, and they are, I believe they're scheduled to interview you Thursday mid-morning-ish, I think?
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday, oh,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow, okay. And then I
Yeah,
do
it's
know,
tomorrow. I'm on.
I do know that
11
they're
o'clock.
also interviewing a provider, Patty Robb from the Warner Center, on probably Thursday then.
I believe, yes.
Yeah, I knew it was one of those two.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure.
So it is quite an extensive process. It is, you know, a good 12 hours of auditing. There'll be a closeout audit. We will certainly bring the results of the audit back to you. And of course, we then look at that and try and learn from it. And if there are items that we need to be addressed, we'll certainly bring them back to the appropriate committee as well.
What is that certifying? I mean,
So,
what
thank you. Okay.
Culture.
Well,
So
the,
the culture of quality is our state association's seal of approval that the board is operating the way it should be in relation to best practices as they are implemented across the state and as they apply to Ohio Revised and Ohio Administrative Code. So if there's something in the code that says the board will do this, they're looking for a policy that says we will do X, and then the action related to that policy so that they can connect it back and say, okay, this is, you meet this standard.
okay, that helps, because I thought it was talking about culturally sensitive to the populations that we're dealing with and that we're, so I was way off, okay.
Steve?
thank you.
Scott and I talked about this a couple of minutes ago on a staff call this morning. We were talking about this. Another way to look at it, the very first one this organization did was in 2007, August 8th to 9th of 2007. So this will be our fifth one. A good way to look at it from a physical medicine perspective, potentially, or from a provider perspective would be Joint Commission, JACO, or as Scott and I were talking, a CARB certification. So that's essentially what this is for us as an administrative headquarters versus as an actual treatment provider. That makes some sense with a lot of the physical plant components are going to obviously be smaller. We don't do direct care, but that's close.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just need to chime in.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
All right, now I'm done.
Any other questions for Scott this afternoon? Awesome, we're going to move into open session. Richard? Yep, we're going to need the mic, the roving mic.
Never make it as a sailor.
Thank you. At last week's meeting, I believe I reported to you that county commissioners are going to spend some of their recovery dollars, and they're going to outfit their quarters over there so that they can have live streaming of their county
Right.
commissioners'
Yeah.
meetings. And that does present something of a problem given the structure of their meetings. Typically, they meet at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. They approve a few articles, and then they go into executive session for possibly 3 or 4 hours. They don't remain there. They just put a sign outside the door that says in executive session. Sometimes they go out to lunch. Sometimes they go up to the 8th floor and order pizza, as long as they come back to that room. But there have been plenty of times when I attended the 4 p.m. city council meeting across, and they were still in executive session. Are they going to continue to do that if they live stream their meetings? Now, I have attended county commissioner meetings since the 1980s. Jim Holzmer was the chair back then. I saw something today I've never seen before. The meeting started. Pete Gerken did what he usually does. He answers yes for the roll call. For the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem, he does what he always does. He gets up, he moves away from his 2 county commissioners, he stands with his back to the flag, facing the audience, and he refuses to participate. And sometimes he actually checks his phone during the National Anthem. Today, he didn't do anything, he just left the meeting. He just got up and left. I've never seen that before. The other commissioners didn't say anything. They went ahead and approved about 15 different items, very important items. Then they went into executive session. I went out into the lobby. I asked two staff members, where did he go? They said, we don't know. He didn't say anything to us about it. I waited until they came out of executive session. I talked to Tina. She was most reluctant. I'm quoting her here, "We have to respect that Pete had another meeting to attend." That is all she would say. Nothing about an emergency or anything like that. Nothing for the record. He was just there to vote, yes, he's there, and then he got up and left. Speaking as an old timer, if that happened when Sandy Eisenberg was there, you'd hear her screaming all the way down Jackson Boulevard. This didn't used to happen. I tried to find out, I don't know. So is this sort of thing going to continue when they live stream their meetings? And I am of the opinion that this is a county board, and if it's bad for the county commissioners, it's bad for this board. It bears mentioning Mark Sigov of the Blade was there. He left just as they went into executive session. He's the same reporter that attended the levy review committee a few weeks ago. Really got angry that they went into executive session. There was an editorial in the Blade talking about the rot of county government, and they actually scheduled another meeting so they could come back and discuss what they discussed in executive session and vote all over again on the library and the Imagination Station. I don't know what's going on, but I'll find out. So what's going on over at City Council? Tomorrow they have their zoning and planning, and they were supposed to discuss the text amendments to group living. Now this is what was proposed way back Valentine's Day of 2019. This is back when Unison was proposing their facility on Jefferson, which if you recall, a 6-6 tie, and the mayor had to break that tie. It has been sent back more times than I can count. It was supposed to be reviewed tomorrow, but they will have a special committee of the whole on September the 22nd. Now, the good thing about that is once it passes committee of the whole, it doesn't need to go back to zoning and planning, it doesn't need to go to agenda review. Hopefully, it will be approved at the September the 27th council meeting. And the thing that concerns me most about is they will no longer be using the phrase residential facilities. We will go back to using the phrase group homes, which everybody knows has a terrible stigma, but that is the wishes of the Plan Commission and the city legal department. So that takes place on September the 22nd. This Thursday, they will have a combination Neighborhoods Community Development Committee and Public Safety Criminal Justice Reform Committee. It's called Save Our Community Gun Violence Reduction Initiative. When Councilman Hobbs asked for this, he made specific mention of a year and a half ago when Officer Brendan Stalker was shot to death by a mentally ill man. And he said, you know, he knows that family. They tried to get help for their son, but they could not. So I don't know what the discussion is going to be. I don't know how many people are going to show up, but that's this Thursday at 3 p.m. And the Plan Commission will hear at their September meeting a man named Nassim Isaac wants to open up a medical marijuana dispensary at 3534 Door Street. That used to be Jed's. And the UT students will be delighted. I don't know if he's going to need any waivers for spacing requirements. That's a pretty busy area over there. But he will go before them at their September the meeting. I talked to Plan Commission. They said, well, we'll see what happens. And if that's approved, it'll be approved at the October City Council meeting. And it doesn't say anything here about waivers. So we'll see what happens with that. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else have any comments or to address? Okay. Well, my fellow trustees, you'll be receiving an email from Scott with a link to, it's an hour-long presentations for our board training. We have to do training once a year. So for our board training this year, we're going to review and freshen up on ethics for public officials. So if you will take an hour and get it done by September 30th, that would be greatly appreciated. And at the end, it gives you answer some questions, it gives you, you can test, you get a certificate. If you will print that off and then send a copy of it to Scott, that'll be great. That's the evidence that we've done our training and our review. Any questions, just let Scott or I know. Yeah. And if there's nothing else, all right, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
This is the shortest meeting I've ever experienced.
After a few marathons, it's good. Good job, Susie.